Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am extremely thrilled to have you join us today. Why do we do this podcast? Because we want to explore the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. And that purpose is approach it with a servant's heart. Don't you want to make a difference in your world? It could be a little or it could be a lot. I do all of that. But just approach your life and your work with a servant's heart. We also started this podcast to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to also make an impact in your world, whatever that may be. So you're going to learn, inspire, and start doing things. My guest today, we met a while back, and I'm so excited to see him again. We're going to talk leadership, but in a different perspective that I think you're going to love. And while you're listening to my great guest today, I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today. Go buy yourself a Starbucks coffee you haven't had in 6 months. Go tell somebody their dog looks. I don't care what the service is, but go out and serve people, because people go, and Rob's laughing, and it's funny. People are like, I can't afford to serve. Well, you could just walk outside your door and serve within minutes. So think about that. And I want you to think about what impact you're going to create today with that. That's really important, because that's your ROI of serving, what impact you'll create. Boy, you're going to hear some impact from my guest today too. And I want to, today's episode is proudly sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine working with very successful, high-income entrepreneurs and business owners to build a platform that's a thought leader expertise platform to change and impact the world. If you want to be part of this community, reach out to me, and I'll get you more information about that. With that being said, I talk impact, I talk serving. Leadership is talked all over. It's everywhere. And it should be, because if we're better leaders, this would be a better world. But my guest today has got a unique and very cool perspective on this. So let's welcome today, Rob, to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Steve. Awesome to be here. Great to know you. I was only laughing because you said, like, go tell somebody's dog they looked good or something like that. And it just made me chuckle, thinking of like telling somebody their dog looks nice or whatever that might be.
And it's funny.
I got a kick out of that.
You know, and I love that, because you have such a servant's heart. That's why I love having you on the podcast, being a guest. Yeah, we think it's little, but maybe that person woke up, somebody passed away in their life. You know, it's interesting. That's where I think leadership comes in. I want to start with this. What comes to your mind when you hear the words servant leadership?
The first thing that comes to mind is Jesus. He was the ultimate servant leader. He kind of like is the example of what a servant leader looks like. Putting your life down for other people, you know. So it's something that is not natural for most people, including myself, right? So it's something that it was like out of my realm of like understanding. Even I can recall even 10 years ago, Steve, when I was on my personal development journey, just starting out, I was watching a Tony Robbins video, and he said, you know, to be successful in business, you have to be a servant, you have to serve. And I was like, why would I have to like serve other people for me to make money? Like my mind was so backwards from where it is now. Like that's how I actually thought, like, why would me helping other people make sense in me being successful? That's where my head was at. And so it's amazing when we're intentional about changing, you can drastically change. And you have to have perspectives like that and remember things like that to remember how far you've come, so you can get lost in the journey and think you haven't grown as much. And then when me mentioning that right there is like, wow, what a leap in growth I made in just 10 years from where I used to be. Anyways, that's a long, very long answer to your question. But when I first think of servant leadership, I think of Jesus first.
And it's a great response. And if you're not a faith person, it doesn't matter. There's other people that emulate Jesus that you can mentor to be a better leader. And I love two things you said. 10 years. Now, people listening are probably going, God, it's a long time. It's not, because the next 30 years, you can implement that 10 years that you learned and make a complete impact that we talked about in the beginning. The other word, I want you to talk about intentional, because I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to get up earlier. Their leadership things, habits to be a better leader. But why is intentional part of your conversation with this?
Well, if you're not intentional, like what is life if you're not intentional? We got to be intentional about something. We've got to be we are intentional about something, whether we're being intentional about it or not, right? So if you're not intentional about anything, then you're being intentional about being unintentional, and that's going to be a major problem. And I think a lot of people live their lives that way. A lot of people live their lives being unintentional. I used to be very sarcastic. I was intentionally sarcastic all the time because I really enjoyed being sarcastic, because I thought it like made me funny or gave me a leg up, or it was just it was an insecurity. And so but it made me feel like I was funnier than other people, or I didn't take anything seriously, right? So being intentional about the right things is very important, because our society will teach us to value things that are really not healthy for us or anybody else. Like a lot of people are very intentional about using their phone, right? They're very intentional about social media. They're very intentional about scrolling TikTok or whatever it might be. And that's what they do, right? So just looking at it that way, it's like, man, intentionality is everything. And we all should thrive. We all should strive to be leaders of our own lives. Because if you're not a leader of your own life, somebody else is leading it. So if you are not intentional about being a leader for yourself, and being a leader for yourself means you're being intentional about the things that you value and you want to be intentional about. But if you're not doing that, then society is, or other people are, or the content that you watch is, right? So, and go back to the whole Jesus idea too, right? So even if you're not religious, history proves that Jesus was a real human being. He was here on earth. So learn the principles that he had. So even if you want to, I don't encourage you to take Christianity out of it or whatever out of it. But if you want to just look at his life as a template for being a good human being, that's a pretty darn good template to go off of.
Interesting, because it's like, we know dinosaurs were here on the earth. We're seeing fossils. That's what I'm thinking about. He was here on earth. There's proof and there's fact that he was here. Well said. Thank you. The other thing why you're a leader and why you teach it so well is your humbleness. You're very open. I was sarcastic. I thought I was doing this, and it was not good for you. Talk about humbleness in leadership.
What is I love the saying about humility. Being humble is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So it's thinking about you less and thinking about other people more. And that being humble is like never thinking that you have all the answers, always thinking there's something for me to learn in every situation. It's one of the ways that I look at it, because I'll find myself in situations where I feel like I'm out of my league, and I'll be very humble in those situations, right? Because I want to learn and soak up everything. But I'll be in situations where I feel like I'm the big fish in the room, or the shark in the room, or whatever, and I might find myself not listening and not paying attention in those rooms. Before we started, Steve, you gave me an acronym: ask, shut up, listen, ask, right?
Yep. Principle.
So that's
ASLA principle. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's it right there, right? Asking, shutting up, listening and asking and paying attention. And it's simple, but most of us can't stop talking long enough to listen to what we need to hear, because you'll learn so much about people if you shut up and listen. You'll learn everything you need to know. And thinking of like Dale Carnegie, right? How to win friends and influence people. It's like being genuinely interested in other people. So just being genuinely interested in people is really a great way to be humble. Like, I'm more interested in what you're about and who you are than what I feel like I need to say or I need to get out. And it's a complete reverse from how our society teaches us, right? So we're always trying to talk about what we know or who we know or how we know this thing, instead of giving other people a floor to learn from them. And when you learn from others, you find you learn some things that you learn good ways to do things, but you also learn how to how's it go? I learned something from everybody. Some people I learn the things that I need. Other people I'll learn the things that I don't need from them. And I think that's a really good thing to pay attention to, because you can learn so much from others, even if you are not necessarily in alignment with them. You'll get different perspectives, and you'll also understand, well, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be that way. Oh, I do want to be this way. Oh, I do want to follow what they're talking about here. But if you don't pay attention, you're not going to pick up on those things.
It's well said, because my podcast, and like yours, and we'll talk about your podcast here in a minute, I have people like, I've never been in jail, but I have a guest that was spent 32 years in prison for something he didn't do.
Wow.
Well, I don't need to know that, but I know prison's not good, and I don't want to be there because of what he told me. So your perspective is spot on. And I had a guest last 2 weeks ago, Otis, that was in the military. And he was telling me a top general went down to his troops and said, I made a huge mistake. Humbleness runs through the military. I didn't know this. And can you imagine? You make a mistake in the military, you could kill people. People could die, and they're still admitting that. So I say, if the military can do it, why can't me and you, right?
Yeah, and there you go also, Steve. That's also humility, right? If you are somebody who doesn't say I'm sorry ever, or doesn't apologize and correct something that they did wrong, your humility level is probably not where it needs to be, because we should strive to want to apologize. And I notice this with my son a lot, because I find myself like, I don't need to apologize for being mean yesterday, even though I was in a bad mood. I didn't need to be mean. And it's like, well, no, you really do need to apologize. You need to be an example for him, but not just for him, but for yourself, because you want to make sure you're not, me not apologizing to him is me saying to myself, well, I'm better than he is. I don't need to apologize to him. I'm above him, right? But me putting myself aside and taking myself from like this higher place onto his level is what I need to do. And that's what we need to do with everybody in our lives.
Great message. Everybody, even me, needs to learn, because we fall. We're fallible. God made us. Jesus made us fallible for a reason. We will make mistakes, but it's not the mistake you made, it's what you learn from it. So well said. I'm excited to talk about your podcast. What's the name of it? What's the mission?
It's the Unstuck Movement. The concept is simple. We all are stuck at different areas in our lives. The only way to get unstuck is to have movement. You've got to take action to get unstuck. So the tagline is true testimonies of breakthrough. So these are true testimonies from real people who have been stuck, made the movement, taken action, and they've had incredible breakthrough in their lives. And I love to talk about the story of where they were stuck, the story of how they found that breakthrough, and then the story of how they made their message. Because anybody who's had an amazing breakthrough in their life, almost always you end up taking that thing that you got through and you use it as a message to help other people with. Now, that message could be a business model, or that message could just be something that you do because you have a unique experience and somebody else is going through that right now, and you can speak right to it. For me, one of the things I don't monetize, like I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and it was really hard. Anybody who's been through a divorce knows it's really hard. And not even on purpose, people come to me and show up in my life, guys show up to me in my life who are going through divorce, who are going through separation, who are going through just this long, torturous torment that when you're in the middle of it, seems like it never ends. So thank God, I think God really brings guys to me. This has happened over a half a dozen times now, where I get to speak directly to somebody and mentor them through that journey. And that's a mess turned into a message that I can speak to other people about. So that's what the podcast is for, man. Just it's to tell those stories, but also to inspire everybody out there that if you're going through something, you will get through it as long as you keep going and have faith, and then you can use it, right? But also, if somebody's gone through something and they're not using it in their life to help other people, and also to help themselves, because we continue to tell our story, a story of victory, a story of perseverance. As you tell that story, you get stronger in your conviction, and you heal more by telling your story, right? So you need to be able to tell the truth, tell the truth in love, and tell the truth to heal you and to help others. And it's beautiful how life works that way. I love that. So I went through some really difficult things, and I'm sure I will in the future again. And so that's where the podcast came from. Like, I want to be able to tell these stories. And on top of that, also, Steve, I just wanted to mention, podcasting is such a great platform for personal growth and personal development. So we were talking about the ask, shut up, listen, and ask method of life. That's what podcasting is. And so if you want to become a better listener and a better speaker and a better communicator, you should, and I encourage people, and this is why I teach a platform to help people launch their podcast. Because if you launch a podcast, man, you will grow as a human being. You will grow, you will connect with amazing people, you'll hear amazing stories, you'll become a better communicator and a better person through that process. I'm sure you've experienced that.
Amen. And we can stop the show right there with that comment, because you're right. But we won't. We got a few more things to talk about, but that's so well said.
By the way, this is crazy. I'm in central
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. The sun has not come out in almost 2 weeks. And during this podcast, the sun has come out. I usually block my window, and I didn't block it because the sun's been gone. And right now it's shining on me.
You know, it's shining on us. We won't get into that, but me and you both, amen to that. Give us a story that resonates with you from one of your guests that you had on your podcast that could inspire and motivate our audience.
Oh, man. Okay.
And there's a lot, I'm sure.
Trying to think of a few come to mind. I'll just grab one out of the hat. It's probably not the ultimate one, but really good. Debbie Greer Chamberlain. I had her on about a month ago. She grew up in the 60s. Her parents were teenagers. Her mom left at an early age. It was her and her 5 siblings. Their dad moved them from they moved them states, like Virginia down to like Georgia or something like that. The dad got a stepmom. The stepmom was abusive. The dad was abusive. They beat all the kids. They like chained them to the wall, and just terrible stuff. Then the dad and the stepmom leave. They literally moved and left the 6 kids in the house by themselves. And so the 6 kids lived in this house by themselves. The dad would drop off once a week. He'd drop off like a big pot of goulash and just like leave them there. And she said it was one of the best times of her life because her and her brothers and sisters just lived there by themselves. And really interesting to hear her tell that story. But they were picked up by CYS or whatever it was back then, and were moved into a group home with hundreds of kids. And most people, you would assume their lives were ruined. Her life would have been a mess. But she is just an amazing human being. So she persevered through all of that, grew through all of that, became an incredible real estate agent, like a titan in her. I think she's in Texas now. A titan in her industry, just made so much money. And from a heart-centered perspective, from a servant's perspective, and her story and her spirit of like how strong she is because of what she went through, because she learned so much in that group home. She learned how to be a leader. At 10 years old, she was washing dishes and serving for hundreds of children. It just built this like discipline inside of her, and built this strength inside of her to like keep moving and to get unstuck. You have to have movement. She took action, and she would take massive action. So she built this like empire in real estate, and now she's turned that around into a platform where she's motivating others, helping them. She's telling her story. She wrote a book. She goes into organizations and businesses, and companies, and inspires others through her journey and her story. So she's one example. When I heard her story, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what that would have been like as a kid. And then to come out of it, go back and listen to that episode, just her countenance and how lively she is and how happy she is and how positive. It's just extraordinary. So her story really captivated me.
Most of us don't have that obstacle to be successful. If she can do it, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I grew up with parents and all that, I just can't imagine. That's the great thing about a podcast too. We get to learn as hosts, like you mentioned earlier. We're coming to the end here, but I love your behind you. And if you're listening to this on podcast, he's got an emblem that says, and it's his logo, leadership, impact, technology. Talk about that. It's interesting 3 words you put together.
Well, it's interesting because that's not actually my logo anymore.
So there we
So
go.
that was an event I did back in 2020 called the Lit Conference. So now my company is Lit Coaching, but it's Lead, Impact, Transform. I changed the technology to Transform. I have that up there just because it was from that event, but I do need to get it changed, which is kind of hilarious because it doesn't match my company name, but I love the logo. But the company Lead, Impact, and Transform, technology is a part of that in the sense that my coaching is through 6 different modes, right? So if we want to find major breakthrough in our life, there is a formula for finding breakthrough. And that involves creating I call it the vital system, VITALS. The V is for vision. We have to have a powerful vision that's drawing us forward in life. The I is for impact. We have to make impact in people's lives. How do you know somebody made an impact in your life? If I say the word leadership, somebody automatically pops up in your head, right? So somebody's name comes up in your head. So I look at that as like, man, you got to make impact. Like when somebody says a word, your name pops up. The T is for technology in this sentence, in the vital system, because technology is unavoidable. You and I, before this call, you were just showing me some amazing AI technology for LinkedIn that I already had and I wasn't even using.
Yeah.
So we have to utilize technology effectively, and it's important to embrace it and not run away from it, but also not let it rule our lives. The A is for action. You have to take action. We always have to be in action. What activities are we doing? What actions are we taking? The L is for leadership, being a great leader, but the S is for service, being of service, which brings us full circle to your platform. So as far as Lit coaching and what I do, it's helping people find those breakthroughs in their personal and professional life using that vital system and letting that be the driving force for them to find the breakthrough that they need.
You're a podcast host out there. I want you to listen to the tip that happened. And it came organically. I asked you a question about something, your leadership impact. It went a complete different direction, but it talked about what you did by asking that curious question. Don't worry about the outcome. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, it's not his logo. Shoot, I just screwed up. Never crossed my mind, because I knew the curiosity I had led to what you just said. You do the lit, but in a different way, but you incorporate technology. So what a great lesson for you podcast hosts out there, and even guests when you're guesting. Being curious as a guest is so important. We won't get into that. Let's end with a fun question. You're such a fun guy, and you're sarcastic in a fun way. You don't use it as much, but I like your personality. So you have a reservation at a restaurant. You have a table of 4. Of course, you're sitting in one chair. In the other 3 chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would they be invited? And what food would you order?
Oh my gosh, man. Okay. Well, Jesus would be one of the people at that table. That's easy. 2 other people that I would have there. What else would I have at that table? This is gonna be this. Okay, throughout my life, Arnold Schwarzenegger has been a hero of mine for most of my life, just because, man, the guy, just the vision. Talk about somebody who had vision. So hearing his stories, I've watched his documentary, read his book, just amazing. So I'd put Arnold there just because of what he's done. You don't have to agree with everything that everybody's done in their life, but people have done amazing things. And that 4th person, who would the fourth person be at that table? Oh my, that's a really hard one to answer. Who would I want?
Pull one out of the air.
I can't. I'm circling so many names all over the place. Somebody's name that comes up in my head when I think about that. There's an amazing guy that I watch online, Myron Golden, amazing marketer. Actually, that's the answer. Yeah, it would be Myron Golden, it'd be Schwarzenegger, and it would be Jesus. Those would be the 3 people. And the food, my wife will ask me what I want for dinner. I never know what I want for dinner. I can never decide. But I would just say we're just going to have some good old-fashioned hamburgers. We're just going to get down
Simple.
American style.
I love it. It's funny. I'm thinking I could see Schwarzenegger go to Jesus. I'll be back. I'm like, how crazy would that be? And on a side note, I met a guy
And Jesus is like, I literally came back. I was
yeah,
back.
exactly. See, you're a sarcastic one. I didn't even think about that. There you go. I'll be sorry, Arnold. I came back. I did do that in a big way.
Yeah.
So I met a guy that knew the gentleman in the documentary. And audience, if you haven't seen it, and you're a fan of Arnold, I'm a big fan too. 30 years before he did everything, he told this guy he was going to be the governor of California. He was going to be a power bodybuilding champion, and he was going to be
the #1 action star in the world. The highest grossing action star
in the world. 20, 30 years before that, he told this guy, and it's on tape, and this guy heard the tape. So anybody that does that, crystal ball, fortune, I don't care what you call it, that's a visionary.
He was just born with that incredible vision and the confidence also. That's the piece, right? That's the most important piece, is the confidence and he was just sure. He just knew. Like, it was not a question of like, oh, maybe that vision can happen. No, that's what's happening. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, he made a big mistake. He owned up to it, and we're all good. So real quick, how can people get a hold of you?
You can just find me at leadimpacttransform.com. That's my website. You can book a call with me there, or go to LinkedIn, Rob Z. Wentz, search for me on there.
Yeah, perfect. You've been an incredible guest. I want to bring you back for more. We're going to bring him back part 2. Be even better. So audience, look for that. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. You have access to Rob and all my great guests. Share with a family or friend, and comment on the YouTube channel or on the podcast. If it's critique for the podcast, I love it, good or bad. Information, or if you want to get a hold of Rob, I'll get that comment to him as well. And as always, me and Rob want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.